Hello there, beloved souls. It is literally 1414 as I start this video. And I wanted to make this just to celebrate a huge expansive vision that has landed for me and I have begun to materialise in my world. And I felt for all of you who've been following me for a while and seeing my journey, it was worth exploring how on earth I went from being a pregnancy guru, and I'll explain that in a second, to a sacred union coach, a coach of coaches, and now working with this new earth elite, the entertainment industry and seeding STARPEACE. What on earth is that all about? Well, today's a very auspicious day. Today is the day where we have a rare conjunction between Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces. And it is a day of cleansing, deep cleansing of our internal waters and the waters in the collective. And for me, this has been the journey of clearing my subconscious of all of the limiting beliefs that I have inherited and self-experienced to become the biggest, most expansive version of myself and to dare to dream my biggest dream. So here's where it starts. If you've ever sat and watched television with me, you regret it very quickly, especially if there are adverts on. There is a movie, a TV series, an advert, all you get is Rosie's rhetoric on what on earth are they doing and why are they doing that, and that's not how it happens, and why are they telling us lies, and you know that's not true, and blah blah blah. It's a nightmare. So basically we just don't watch television. That's the way it works. Same with the news, same with the radio. If you're new to me, hello, I'm Rosanna Hannes. I am the frequency of Rosie Glow, that is my soul name. And Rosie Glow is basically divine grace in action. It is the power of revelation. It is through my own experiences and sharing of these experiences, I channel what I've now learned is a galactic consciousness. So my consciousness has evolved into a galactic consciousness. And as a result of that, I'm getting ready to create my own universe. And in this physical reality, that is creating an empire. But why would we even want to do that? Like, what's that all about? Leaving a legacy, having a divine legacy. This is about us having an impact on this world. And for those of us who have become aware of the fact that we are not just humans, but we are humans having a spiritual experience, or spiritual beings having a human experience, a physical experience, we recognise that we're on a journey home. We're reuniting with the divine, we're reclaiming the divine. And I know divinity is a bit of a dirty word in some people's perception, but I just want to say that divinity is not religion. It is recognising the sacredness of all life and also recognising the fact that we've all come from somewhere and we're all going back there. So I'm just taking time to share this story with you, so I'm intending that you are really inspired and excited about what is coming, because on our journey home we get to have a lot of fun. And in this life, in my life, now remembering my galactic consciousness allows me to be hugely expansive, especially with my intention and desire to always co-create with the highest good of all in mind and the win-win-win. So, where I'm getting to with this is revelation comes from hearing things and then being able to say, oh wow, I've never seen it like that before. Wow, that really expands my vision of what is, what does exist, what I thought existed, and also what is possible. And my vision of what is possible has exponentially grown. So this is me charting that journey with you and giving you a little window into my magical world. So once upon a time, I was a very young mum. I was very blessed that my own mum recognised that I wasn't very happy as a teenager. And so at the age of 14, I started to have some rebirthing sessions that actually seeded the importance of our birth and how our birth impacts our reality and our sense of what is real and our perception as humans as we grow into adults, and particularly when we are dealing with anything challenging in our lives. Fast forward, I always wanted to be a mum. From the age of 8, I felt my daughter's consciousness, her soul consciousness in my energy field, and the moment I met a man that wanted to have a baby with me, we co-created my beautiful daughter Scarlett, and that was when I was 21. So at that point, I had already had some experience with rebirthing. I was interested in spiritual work. Once I'd left home, my mum basically started to train as a spiritual teacher in Reiki and stress therapy and crystal healing and EMF, all sorts of stuff. And I'm blessed to say that I'm one of 3 Reiki masters that she initiated while she was on this earth. And I am very grateful that I got that initiation. So by the time I was 21, I was already a Reiki 2 level practitioner. And I gained my mastery when I was 27. Anyway, fast forward. So I'm going back and forward a bit, bear with me. I am a multi-dimensional being and time doesn't exist in my world. But at 22, I had a newborn baby. And I had prepared with my head to give birth naturally at home, but I had not prepared my subconscious, and I also hadn't dealt with my tremendous fear of pain. I thought I was prepared because I'd read some books and gone to some classes, but I learned the hard way after a 4-day labour that almost ended up in a cesarean that actually I was not prepared at all. And an old story that I didn't even know was there, that came up in consciousness, was that my mum's older brother was a stillborn. And so within my cellular memory of my bloodlines, I carried the fear of death in labour, either of myself or my baby. And so although I wanted a home birth in order to escape the potential of my power being taken away in a hospital setting, because I had heard not very great things about what hospitals do, I ended up basically having to transfer in after labouring for 3 nights and getting nowhere. My body would not open up. My baby's head did not even engage in my pelvis because I was so scared of giving birth, even though I really wanted to be a mum. So I ended up in hospital having an epidural like my mother had had, even though I'd sworn I wasn't going to have one, because ultimately this is what we do. We end up repeating the patterns of our ancestors in order to understand why they ended up making the choices they did that perhaps brought us some pain. So we relive it by being the other being. This time I'm the parent having an epidural so that I can actually give birth to my daughter. And I left the hospital thinking I'd had a pretty positive experience of giving birth because I was given a lot of choices, but feeling that I'd also had a traumatic birth because I had to work really, really hard to push my baby out. It had not gone the way I'd wanted at all. I didn't have the home birth I wanted, so I felt like a failure. Anyway, very soon into my world as a new mum, I was a single mum very quickly. I went from being a university graduate to working in IT recruitment to literally being pregnant within a year of leaving uni, and a single mum not too long after that, and that was by choice because I had chosen to have a baby with a man that I didn't know very well at all. I knew him on a soul level, but not physically. And my first experience of working with mental health issues or having relationships with people with mental health issues got learned in my relationship with Scarlett's dad. And I wasn't prepared. I felt incredibly unsupported as a mother. I didn't know how to meet my own needs. I was very scared. And my daughter has all of these imprints too that she's been working through in her own life, in her own way. I'm explaining what the baseline of my emotional state was when I was pregnant, and also why I had such a challenging birth and why I made the decisions afterwards that I did. So that was the trauma piece, if you like. Within 10 months, a lot had changed, and I was a single mum on government support. Now, yoga had been a part of my life for some time. I had trained as a yoga teacher, and I knew once I'd had my daughter that I really did not want to go back to being in IT recruitment. It felt like it was the devil's work. I had to lie for a living. Every day I was forcing myself to get out of bed and self-medicating because I felt horrendous. I didn't want to do the job I was doing. And although I could make really good money, the price was my soul. That's what it felt like. And so in the time that I had my daughter, I'd saved some money and it allowed me to do some further training. And I started to teach a normal yoga class, and a lot of pregnant women started to come to me. So I felt I needed to train specifically in pregnancy yoga. And this led me to Birthlight. And with Birthlight, I trained in fertility yoga, pregnancy yoga, birth yoga, baby yoga, toddler yoga, all of it, postnatal yoga. And I became a tutor for them. I was also working with maternity professionals, with doctors and midwives, so obstetricians, midwives, doulas themselves, yoga teachers, parents, paediatricians, holistic therapists, all those who wanted to learn holistic pregnancy, birthing and nurturing methods that would bring the greater enjoyment to pregnancy and to birth and to babies. And it was an amazing time of my life. And this was when I was this fertility, pregnancy, birth, baby guru. When I say guru, knowing full well I am not a guru, I never have been a guru, and I will never be a guru because I do not believe in that dynamic. For me, the idea of being some all-seeing teacher and passing knowledge on in that way and having people just coming and learning from me is not what this is about, and I know that's not a full representation at all of what a guru is, but I just wanted to put that in the title to make clear to everyone that whilst I was working specifically with this time period, with the fertility through to first three years of life, I made quite a name for myself. I was the woman that people went to in Croydon. I had a company called Enjoy Yoga. And you know, Croydon's got nearly 500,000 residents at the moment, and I know that I worked with at least 5,000 women, their babies and their partners at the time that I was growing Enjoy Yoga, and I learnt so much from working with these amazing beings. I also became a doula, so I attended births myself, and I saw everything that I have been teaching in action and how we could really minimise the impact of unnecessary procedures in labour, how we can prepare a woman to give birth, trusting in her body, how we can move through blocks when they show up, how we can keep the baby in mind and stay connected to that baby no matter what procedures are taking place. And I learned about being able to have a conscious cesarean, a conscious induction, a conscious epidural. And I say this knowing that at some point some women do need medication, as do babies, but a lot of the time it's overused. Anyway, let's move on. So how did I go from basically working with really complex fertility cases? You know, my success rate was around 80%, which no IVF clinic can claim, and yes, my sample is fairly small, but it was the way that I worked with women and their partners that brought the results. And it taught me so much about how if the subconscious is not aligned with our conscious mind, and if we don't involve our soul and put our higher self in control, we end up in a lot of trouble. We can end up with a baby, but that doesn't mean we're happy. We can end up with a traumatised baby, a traumatised mum. When I say trauma, I mean dealing with unprocessed pain because we don't have the tools to deal with it. We think external things will make us happy, but we learn that they don't. We're left with the same stuff that we were pushing to the side because we didn't know how to deal with it. And if there's one reason that I really moved away from my pregnancy and birth work and fertility work, was that I felt it is a real calling to be a parent, especially to the high frequency souls that are coming to this earth at this time. And I didn't just want to be helping anybody have a baby. It felt really important to work with those who were ready to evolve their consciousness, to be their higher selves, so they could be the best possible parents they could be to these children. They could re-educate themselves about what the needs of these high frequency beings are, because I learned that I'm a starseed. I learned that my consciousness isn't just human, but I've been able to integrate my soul consciousness with my human consciousness, and remember that I have starseed origins, so I have travelled other places, I have come from other places, I have lived in other constellations as other beings other than a human. And bringing this awareness now, however it comes through, made me very aware of the fact that those who are coming in that are super sensitive are starseeds, and they are the ones that are here to come and co-create the new earth. And we are at a choice point in the world. There is the old world, which calls itself the New World Order, and there is the New World, which I call the New Earth Paradigm, or New Paradise on Earth. And this was kind of the first segue into moving away from doing birth work specifically. Also, I was called down to Brighton, and I just want to say this because this is part of the fascinating thing about how our soul consciousness and our bloodlines are really strongly connected. As a soul, we choose to incarnate into families who have issues that they're working through that are relevant to the soul lessons we come to learn in this life. And we choose our curriculum, right? We choose our curriculum. So anyway, where I went with this is this recognition that when we come in, we have bloodline clearing to do. It's part of our journey and our growth. And obviously I had the experience that I did of having a really hard time giving birth. But I didn't know until I moved to South Croydon that my only English blood, because I'm 3/4 Greek, is actually from South Croydon. My granddad was a Bernardo's boy. He literally came from up the road, that's where he used to live, from where I used to live, where I chose to live. And I wanted to move to Croydon. I don't know if you've been there. One can ask why, but the moment I landed at East Croydon Station, I was like, I want to live here. I have to live here. And in later conversations that I had with my beloved grandfather, Fred, when I told him that I was working with Croydon University Hospital, as I was part of their Maternity Services Liaison Committee, and later became the co-chair and the chair of that committee, and whilst I was there, the maternity services of that hospital went from being one of the worst performing in the country to one of the best performing in the country. I was working with them for 10 years. I wasn't the only one, there were others, but I was playing a significant role with the feedback that was coming from my clients who were birthing at that hospital, and we were able to basically hold those accountable who were abusing their power behind closed doors. And doctors and midwives were given the opportunity to retrain or leave. I'm really proud of that. I also was the one responsible for choosing the colour of the wall in the new birthing centre once it was built, because I remember being at a meeting and I was asking them what colour they were going to paint the wall, and I'm like, green, hospital green. I was like, are you serious? Like a blue or a green, like that light purple stuff? And I ended up doing a whole session with them about colours and the impact of colour on whether we feel safe and soft and we can open up, or whether we shut down. And this is what I mean. I learned so much about different perceptions and different areas of expertise and how important it is to bring them together. But the main point before I move on from the pregnancy journey is that when I told my grandfather that I was working with that hospital, he said, oh, Mayday, that used to be called that. That's where your mum's older brother was a stillborn. Dum dum dum. Rewind, when I had my daughter, I didn't live in South Croydon. We moved there when she was 4 months old. I had no idea about any of this until I was already involved in it. And that's what taught me the power of our cellular memory, of our bloodlines, of our soul calling, and how everything is impulsing us towards being able to heal for ourselves and for those who've chosen to come through. It's part of our journey. Anyway, in seeing that working with pregnancy was too late, working with fertility was too late, I decided that it might be time to actually work with people before they're even thinking about being pregnant. Because at that point they might be open to doing the deep inner work that they're not open to doing when they're like, baby, 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 or pregnant, 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 right? Now, in between all of this, something amazing happened. So, thank you for hearing this, because it's really important to share with you is my story. This book is called The Honeymoon Effect. It's by Dr. Bruce Lipton. He had another book called The Biology of Belief. And in the years that I was working with Birthlight, so the first time I did any tutoring for them was 2009. I set up Enjoy Yoga 2004. And I moved to Brighton in 2014, so I kept Enjoy Yoga going until 2018, I believe, or 19, might even have been 20. Anyway, his work underpinned every course that I taught through Birthlight. He was always in the back of the book, and I was always fascinated with what he'd written. The Biology of Belief, though, oh my god, like just too much science for me. I remember reading this book and being, I want that. That's what I want. I want a relationship where I feel like I've got the honeymoon effect every day. There's one thing I didn't have time for in my busy bee crazy world as a yoga teacher and a pregnancy guru. It was basically that I didn't have time for a relationship because I was working chronically hard because of my early imprint stories that were I couldn't really create anything unless I worked really, really hard, because I didn't feel like I deserved to live, because I needed help getting out. And this again just tells you the power of the impact of these early experiences and how they play out in our lives, how they shape our lives. Welcome guys, good to see you. Anyway, in my move to Brighton, which was always on the cards, but it happened some 10 years after intended, or maybe even 12, this whole thing happened with this book, and I decided to research the recommended therapist that Bruce Lipton had suggested, and I found my wonderful teacher Susanna. And basically I bought a digital product. Anyway, this led to me working with her, training with her, and learning how to be an emotional mental detox coach. And for me, this journey really taught me how important it was, one, to recognise the power of the subconscious, but also to recognise that just knowing about it does nothing. The book told you what, it didn't tell you how. The how is a process, and the process is one where we basically have to identify all the areas where we all need an upgrade, because we have collective consciousness around cultural, societal, religious and familial influences. And I think everybody is learning about the world right now that there are a lot of subjective viewpoints. And although science was supposed to come in and be able to prove everything as right or wrong, true or false, we're discovering through new branches of science that it's not quite that simple. So again, basically my work with Susanna led me to bring together everything that I'd learned prior to being an emotional mental detox coach, and then creating my own program, which is my signature program, Fearless, Loved Up and Free to Be Me. Now the reason that I did that was Susanna's work was absolutely phenomenal, but I knew there was another piece that was absolutely important for true and lasting change. And to this day she calls me her star client, because she's seen me go whoosh. And that magic source was the physical aspect of clearing our cellular memory, not just doing the energy work, but also the physical stuff, which is why I run the multidimensional yoga classes that I do, because that is the physical. Anyway, I met my beautiful husband right at the start of my detox journey, but it took us 4 years to actually get together. There were elements that had to align, and this is divine timing. And what this actually brought me to was the fact that I had to be ready. I had to be the version of me. I had to be the frequency matched to what I wanted. And he also needed to be the frequency matched to what he wanted in order for us to be able to get together. And so in 2018, just as I was turning 40, all my dreams came true. And that was the transition from mainly being a yoga teacher and doing a lot of fertility, pregnancy, birth and baby work as a trainer, as a teacher trainer, travelling around the world. You know, I've travelled and ran courses all around the world, to now being a sacred union coach. And the sacred union coach in me started to develop processes. And those processes have become my superconscious co-creating method, the 6 steps that are liberation from limitation, the 6 pillars of divine leadership. All of this has been coming about through my journey. And basically I've got a lot of coaches coming my way too. So you may have heard of the 3 to 4D bridge. That is basically third dimensional reality is the terrestrial world. Any mainstream media and institutions are representing that world. The 4th dimension is everything from religion to yoga to crystal healing to philosophy. A lot of it is of the mind, basically. And 4th dimension is the bridge from the world of being conditioned and programmed to deconditioning and reconditioning into our divine matrix self, which is our soul consciousness embodied in our human self. And so initially I was working with people on the 3 to 4D bridge, and as I've evolved and grown, I'm now working with people on the 4 to 5D bridge that I recognise as awakening starseeds. And this was why the coaches started to come, because a lot of them had done life coaching work, they had trained in a 4th dimensional discipline, positive thinking, 5 to 10% of your brain power basically. Like if your conscious mind is only in charge 5 to 10% of the time, the rest of the time it's your subconscious that is leading your perception and experience of reality. That means for every hour you are only in control of your thoughts and able to change your reality or shift it and influence it for 3 to 6 minutes. right? It's not a lot. The rest of the time, your subconscious is in charge. And this is what I was working with the coaches to learn, is to understand the value of putting their superconscious in control, to do their own deep clearing of their subconscious, and therefore to align their subconscious and conscious mind with their superconscious, their soul self. And this has been loads of fun, and I've been doing this for a few years now, but I knew there was something more. And in 2020, I got a download, because it took me a long time to realise I channel. It took me a long time to realise that Rosy Glow is a frequency that comes through me, that I transmit, and it is my soul consciousness. Anyway, we got there in the end. And now we come to the fact that I'm given a directive. On Halloween, I woke up, 2020, so just at the start of this whole ascension process, which is a rather painful birth for humanity presently, the start of the sea thing. I got the message that the light had won, and I needed to let everybody know the light had won, and I downloaded something that's the sovereignty prayer. And this was the work I was doing from that solstice, from that Halloween point, so All Hallows Eve, when the veil is thinnest between the seen and the unseen world, and the winter solstice, where I gathered with two of my absolute treasure teachers, Susanna Kennedy and Leslie Sloan, and we all together held an event of birthing light through the dark. And after that, my back went for 10 days. I couldn't move, I was in agony. And this was just after, sorry, I'm getting excited now, I had come across the idea of basically working at the highest level, my game at the highest level. I was like, what would that look like? And it was something about 100k office system, and I was like, whoa, what would that look like? I've got my game a lot, but my success doesn't relate to what I charge. My success in my world relates to the impact I can have on the world. What is the biggest impact I can have on this world? Hey Gunnar, lovely to connect with you, it's been a while. So in asking that question, I started to see all sorts of possibilities. It was one of my wonderful clients that said the word stratospheric to me, and it landed. I was like, what would stratospheric look like in my life? You ask the question, you receive the answers. So, not only do I get the message the light has won, but I start hearing from my galactic families, my star families, and I get the message that Star Wars is over, it's time for star peace, and my role now is to seed star peace in the collective. I'm like, okay, whatever, you're mad, I'm talking to no one. Anyway, you go through the self-doubt thing, you get what I mean. And anyway, I decided to open myself up to what would an even more impactful version of myself be. Bearing in mind that by this point I had stopped going to Croydon and teaching my yoga classes there, but there was a version of me that was still energetically running those classes. And this is this thing about parallel timelines. When you start to live your life in a multidimensional way, I know that at that choice point when I chose to diversify and move into coaching and multidimensional consciousness, part of me stayed as a teacher in Croydon, very committed to her classes, and would probably still be teaching at 80. For as long as I could walk up and down those stairs, I'm still teaching there, and I'm serving on some level there. But my higher self invited me to have a higher vision. So here I am now as this world's leading authority in elevating multidimensional consciousness in the New Earth elite, particularly in the entertainment industry, those who have heart consciousness and want to impact the world in the most beneficial way possible, always in alignment with the highest good of all and the win-win-win. What on earth? Okay, let me explain two things. One, the power of entertainment. We think we're watching things for fun, but we are programmed all the time. Our addiction to adrenaline, which we're all addicted to because most of us have had a challenging time entering this world, starts from our time in the womb. The weirdest thing is, whatever was what we grew in is familiar to us, even if it's uncomfortable. So let's just say your mum had a really high stress pregnancy, or she had some trauma to deal with. Those hormones that you grew in are your baseline normal. So if your mum was generally anxious, anxiety is a normal state for you. If she was generally feeling low or negative, that will be a state for you. That's something that you have picked up as a baseline. You might be living what seems an opposite world, a reactionary world, a rebellious world, and not going there at all, like literally seeming the opposite of that parent. But that is a compensation, and it's not a truth. And this is the thing, we all have cellular memory to clear. So I knew from all the work that I've done in the last 22 years that the subconscious is very powerful, and it is influenced all of the time by what's going on around us. Our brains, when it comes to stress, cannot tell the difference between what is real and imagined. And it seems that the world has a fascination with anything that raises adrenaline levels. Think about it, action movies, thrillers, horrors. Have you not noticed they get worse and worse? They become way more detailed as time's gone on. We're fascinated with gore. We also have the most popular type of podcast in this world is true crime. What the fuck is that about? Right? This is really disturbing. And what is our alternative? What do we have in the entertainment world other than adrenaline-inducing entertainment? We have soppy love stories, formulas, they're always the same. Or you get some kind of docu-movie, or you get some kind of expose, but it's all just entertainment. It's not real. You turn it off and it's done. Then we have the media, and the media tells us the truth. So we have entertainment, which is make-believe fiction, and then we have the media that tells us the truth, but from very blinkered perspectives, different depending on the country you're living in. I think you get my point now. My biggest impact is to take everything that I have learned and to bring it to those who are ready now to create new narratives, new storylines, recognizing that if they don't clear up their own subconscious, their own pain stories, in the creations that they create, what they do is they're putting more emphasis out on the problem than the solution. Now, I'm not talking about those who are already in a very enlightened state and all the music that they create is beautiful and uplifting and helping people move through journeys, or those who are writing books that are already there. I'm talking about those who are tapped into something. They know there is more to life than what we're told. They know that the way life is presented to us is not accurate, but in what they create, the focus tends to be on the problem and not the solution. I know when I work with these beings, their consciousness shifts. They activate the higher octave of what they receive as inspiration. Because the astral world is full of energies, if you like. Whatever our vibration is at, we draw that kind of attention to us, that vibrational match. So, you know, some of the things I've seen that blow me away the most, like Sense8, for example, is an amazing series. Lana Wachowski's behind it, and I think her sister too. But it's so dark. There's all this light, but then there's this darkness in it too. That's too dark for someone like me to watch. It really has an impact on me. And all the other light workers out there that are also sensitive, that would rather not watch something than watch something that brings them down, are also influenced in this way. Now, what would happen, let's just say if I worked with Lana and I took her through the process I've taken all my clients through thus far, and she shifted her perception from the wounded self to the higher self, how would she create? What would she create? What would be the interpretation in the world? What would be the emphasis? I say this knowing that she's one of the screenwriters behind The Matrix too, right? And I want everybody to appreciate that we are constantly being given messaging, and we acquiesce to whatever is being put in front of us unless we decide to have something else instead. We become a very, very complacent race. And if we actually want to achieve world peace, if we want to co-create a planet where we no longer need to resolve to war as a way of dealing with conflict resolution, then what we absolutely have to do, in my opinion, is work with those who are awakening within the entertainment industry. This is my role, this is what I do in bridging galactic consciousness with human consciousness, and to really start to recognize how important it is to see receive the positive messaging in the collective consciousness. And that's what I do. And you know, the whole thing with this is also to do with honouring the mother. Because if we take everything I've learned about birth work over the years, I know full well that we create a totally different human race if we have the mother nurtured, the mother-father relationship nurtured, the sacred union nurtured, however that shows up, and the parents are raised in consciousness, are clearing up their own stories before they bring life into this world. And everything is understood in terms of impact. We've got 60 to 70 years worth of pre- and neonatal research now available to us that tells us just what is needed in order to be able to shift the narrative in the collective consciousness, to move us all from an addiction to adrenaline to an addiction to oxytocin, the love hormone. There's a lot I do around that as well. But I'm now going to move you on to STARPEACE, because this was the next piece. My guides always give me the next piece. They don't give me the whole story, because I'll probably run another way. When I say my guides, I mean my soul consciousness, the higher element of my soul consciousness, my galaxy, if you like, communicates to me in simple steps so my human self doesn't freak out. But I get the inspiration of what needs to come next. And STARPEACE was given to me as my life's work now moving forward. And the invitation is, as I said, to work with those who are awakening, to shift their own personal story, and as a result, what they put out in the collective. So we raise our consciousness when we're relaxing rather than lower it, and we make this shift from adrenaline to oxytocin. There's something else that I want to share with all of you, and this is hot off the press. So only those of you who watch this to the end are going to know this, and that is that STARPEACE isn't just a movement, and it's a very powerful movement that I'd love you to get involved in. It's not just an invitation to the New Earth elite. And by the way, the New Earth elite, let's just look at this word elite. This world currently is run by money and fear, right? I have no problem with money at all, but we have to understand that our current level of consciousness equates power with money. The more money you have, the more powerful you are. So the only way I can really see to shift that at this point, other than even if you got rid of money, there'd be another way that those who have money would maintain power. Right? Whatever that may be, whatever that may be. The only way to shift this balance is actually to get more of those who have got lots of money to awaken to their heart consciousness, their soul consciousness. They don't need to have it in them already. So the New Earth elite are those of pure heart that are willing to use their status, their influence, for the highest good of all and the win-win-win. They are the beautiful souls that want to do their best to help humanity shift from being ego-centered to soul-centered. At the same time, they're willing to acknowledge there are blind spots in their consciousness that may well be contributing more to the problem than the solution, and they're willing to take that journey from that place of being limited in impact to being limitless, and that's what I'm talking about. So anyone who would like to be part of the New Earth elite, here's the qualifier. You're willing to live your most expanded version of yourself. You're not going to stop yourself when you hit a block and go, oh no, I shouldn't do that, I should play small because these people will think about this about me and these people will think this about me. I had the shallow belief that I'm a megalomaniac, alright? And that used to shoot me in the foot every time, because I was like, oh, we just want to rule the world, like God help us if Rosie ruled the world. And then I was like, no, you want to have the most impact. You want to see a global shift in your own lifetime, Rosie Johannes, where you see the narrative shift so significantly that some of the things that you thought were impossible not only become possible, but become inevitable in your lifetime. And I will see a movie in the cinema called STARPEACE, maybe even more within my lifetime, and I'm bringing it forward. I'm not going to be a little old lady. It's going to happen much sooner than that. Now, any one of you who is hearing this and feeling this, you have a role to play. You're either a consumer of entertainment or a creator of entertainment, and whichever one you're at, Rosie Glow has something for you. So come forward, go to rosannahannes.com, check out the homepage, check out the STARPEACE page, and get in in touch with me if you want to know more about this. But let me tell you that really exciting bit. So if we're all capable of being the New Earth Elite, and what's really the selection, the qualifier is, are you willing to be the most impactful version of yourself for the highest good of all and the win-win-win? You are the New Earth Elite. Hello, welcome. Right, nice to meet you. We are the New Earth Elite. Here's what we're going to do. Landed in me a few days ago. We're going to have the STARPEACE Awards. And those awards are going to go to superstars who are, in my opinion, on my terms, according to the Rosy Globe Galactic Code, because we're part of the Galactic Federation of Love and Light. Sorry, Gemma, this is way longer than a 5-minute video, right? What are we going to be doing? Basically, I've lost my thread. No, come back. We're going to be working with the superheroes, so those who are already influential, already well known, who are willing to take this journey with me, and are already doing amazing work. And here's the 2 qualifiers. 1, they're raising the consciousness of humanity through their work. 2, they're contributing to world peace through their work. And you and I all of us know that there's lots of awards out there, but it's a bit scary, some of the philanthropists that are getting awarded for what I can only say is really traumatized behaviour. And this is why I want to create my own, because I know then the integrity that's going to come through it. And that working with the superheroes, the superstars, and acknowledging those who are doing that, and I'm talking about the celebrities, the people that are in the public domain already that people know about, we can then also give this award to the unsung heroes, the everyday heroes that are doing phenomenal work to raise the consciousness of humanity with only divine support, is what it seems. Now, on Wednesday, since tomorrow, I'm going to be interviewing the lovely Lara Fairy Love, there you go. Now this woman, she's got a book that needs to become a movie that we all need to see. I mean a blockbuster movie, I don't mean a fringe theatre movie. I'm talking about this needs to be in the cinema. And this is my point. I am so blessed to know so many amazing people doing amazing things. And through the STARPEACE Awards, we're going to be able to bridge the gap between those who have created amazing things and those who can broadcast those creations, put them out into the collective and raise the consciousness of humanity. And that is how I went from being a pregnancy, fertility, birth and baby and young child guru to sacred union and coach's coach to working with the New Earth Elite in the entertainment industry, the New Earth Elite in the entertainment industry, offering my most impactful work possible, because I know we can create this in one generation, and that is what I'm doing. It is here today that I'm declaring it in the public domain, because I want you all to know that I didn't do any of this by playing small, by deciding something was too risky, or by giving up just when things got a bit difficult. I've had so many ego deaths in the last 6 months. I've had to let go of so many layers of my self-identity, and even let go of doing things I loved doing to make space for something more. The defining factor is letting go of the idea that I had to work my nose to the grind in order to be good, worthy, successful, whatever you want to call it. I allowed it to be easier. Doesn't mean it's easy. I still have to really go through some tough moments when I'm facing my shadow, facing my conditioning, and that is the prerequisite for anyone who works with me. They're not going to give up when it gets hard. They're not going to decide it's too risky. They might feel it at times. They're willing to push through those tough moments and say, you know what? I'd rather die trying than give up because I want to stay somewhere comfortable and safe. And when I say die trying, please don't think that in my world that you working with me means you might die, but your ego is going to die a lot of times. And please don't think I want to kill the ego. The ego is something that keeps us safe, that has a wonderful place in our lives. It has to have a place in our lives. But allowing an under 7-year-old who's had traumatic experiences he's trying to protect you from to run your life as an adult is bonkers. They can end up in the seat next to you enjoying the ride, but you put your higher self in control. And when you do that, message me, and I'll let you know all the options that are available to you. So remember that you might be a coach going, damn, I missed that. Oh, doesn't do pregnancy stuff anymore. I might not do certain things anymore, but I have a team around me that are awesome, and they're doing the bits that I don't do anymore so well that I don't need to do them. I can let you know about them, and they're part of my team. And all of this you access through saying yes to you, the biggest version of you, and daring to step into the unknown, creating your magical world as I've been creating it. And I'm making this video in what was my old office that's now all white. It's like a clean slate. My STARPEACE HQ is in the garden, and that's where all my magic is being dreamed up. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me in this share. I really wanted to do it today because I expanded my vision, and I don't regret it for 1 minute. The people that I'm hanging out with now, the people I have access to now, what I thought was a dream as a child is totally, totally open to me as a reality now. But you have to believe it before you see it. And you have to go through those moments where you're like, damn, I'm not sure I'm good enough. And you challenge those. That's where I'll meet you. I love you. Thank you so much. If you know someone that needs to work with me, STARPEACE wise, go check that out, please. If you're feeling that heart call to get involved, this is what it's about. Together, we are creating peace on earth through changing our personal narratives and the narratives in the collective. And yes, we can. Yes, we can. I love you.